Hey guys, Gus here, and today I'm going to be doing a very quick how-to and also a little bit of a review on the Model Mates Opaque range. They do a couple of ranges. They do like the regular sort of weathering liquids, which are like the clear ones. They do a range of those, quite similar to the AK ones. They do this range, which you can see in front of you, which is the Opaque range, which kicks fucking ass. And then they do another range, which is their sprays, which also kicks ass. Like, those are the two that I really like. If you make miniatures, I would highly recommend you get them. As you can see in front of you here, they've got a number of different opaque paints. So they got a light and a dark of sand brown, a light and a dark of mud brown, which is like the most common one which people get, a light and a dark of oil brown, and then I've got an opaque soot black here, which is just like one color. Now, first thing, listen to this. Can you hear it? Woohoo! Yes, there we go. It's got a little ball bearing in, which as soon as I picked them up and I started shaking, I thought that is a nice touch, because this stuff has sort of a sedimentation in it, which creates that opaque finish. And so I thought a bit of a, like a ball bearing inside it was just a great touch. And the old school P3 style paint bottles, which are the genuine P3 paint bottles, so they're very good quality. They seal, it's not going to dry on you, which is awesome. And these are really easy to use. You just whack them on, and they dry. And they look great. Now, part of my military career, I started off with armor. Okay, that was my thing, is I was in, an armored brigade. With armor, you get like sort of a weird thing happening. You get like the grime and the very thick engine oil that lubricates, most of the parts on armored vehicles, and it tends to like stick to a whole bunch of areas of the actual tanks, and it kind of mixes with grime and it mixes with the dirt, and it creates this real like sandy, dirty coat on the outside of this grime that's stuck to places. And I've never seen it recreated before in miniatures until I saw this range, and it looks like the real thing. I was very impressed, speaking from experience. So they're excellent, and you literally just whack them on. Thicker coats for darker, thinner coats for lighter. It dries and it goes opaque. So what I'll be doing is I'll be putting some on this T-34 Ruski road wheels of the T-34 tank. In sequence, I'll be putting some colours on. I'll speed it up, put them on, and you can watch them dry, and you can see what sort of effect it has. So from sort of left to right here, you've got the soot black opaque, which really looks like when you get that built up sort of carbon. And I used that on the Imperial Night tutorial, the last tutorial I made on the engine vents, the exhausts. So then you've got the sand brown, light and dark, which I'm actually quite partial to. That's the sort of effect, well, all of these are actually pretty accurate really, when you get that sort of different kinds of sand that stick to the engine grease and the oil as vehicles are traveling. That's exactly what it looks like. So it's very good, and that's obviously different kinds of sand, right? So you've got the light shade, dark shade of the sand brown, then you've got the mud brown, light and dark. I prefer the light, I think. And then you've got the oil brown there and there, light and dark shade. So they're really good, and you literally just whack them on. When they dry, that's what they look like, so absolutely fantastic. Now, it does say on the actual little pots that it never fully dries hard, which, yeah, sort of. I don't know. One thing that's worth mentioning is when you apply this, you would have seen the kind of paintbrush that I'm using. It's kind of old and wrecked, an old Vallejo brush, which is not a very good brush anyway. I use an old brush. I learned my lesson with my first brush, because when this stuff dries on a brush, it completely wrecks it. Like, it fucks your brush. So you need to use just some cheap synthetic or cheap hog hair brush just to whack it on, and make sure that you, as soon as you've applied it to where it needs to be, the paintbrush goes straight into the water to get rid of this stuff, because this stuff doesn't seem to come off with solvents. I've tried isopropyl alcohol on the paintbrush that I wrecked, and also white spirits, and obviously water and washing it and things, and it just doesn't come off. So you need to get your paintbrush straight into the water after you've applied it. The other thing is, there are health warnings on here, which is fine. At least they're on there, not like GW paints, which can still give you heavy metal poisoning even though it says non-toxic. Go figure, right? So it just says it's flammable, so don't smoke around it. Common sense. Since it's not always common, that's probably why they put the warnings on there, right? So, yep, give it a good shake before you use it. And it gives you how to use, which is actually quite useful. It gives you how to use on here as well. It's just a very, very quick guide on actually how to apply it and stuff, which is actually very cool, in addition to the warnings, obviously. So, very, very good. So, I am extremely impressed with this range. I think it's fantastic. Okay, I would highly recommend, after you've had a look at what's going on here, that you pick up a color or two. I'm certainly going to be using a crap load of this stuff because it looks great. I mean, come on, it looks like the real thing. That's, you know, that's what's so cool about it. So now we're going to go into the sprays. So here we have a selection of sprays. Now these sprays are basically like the regular clear weathering fluid in a spray form. Okay, so you've got the rusty red, mud brown, moss green, sand brown, just a small selection in front of you. There's other ones that you can get hold of, but it is the clear liquid in a spray form, which makes it very useful when you're doing things like tanks and also like dioramas and terrain pieces. Very, very useful because you give them a quick blast of this stuff and it looks really cool. Okay, so these are the four. I'm going to be spraying them onto grey plastic, and these are some dead zone terrain squares. I'll be giving them a blast on here and we can see what they look like. I've left it grey so that you can see what they look like. And then, in addition to that, this is a really special one which I think is really cool. Don't swear, Gus, I do too much swearing. The snow effect. This stuff it's snow. They got snow in a can. I don't know how they managed to capture that snow and stuff it in a can, but seriously, when you spray this stuff, it's like snow. It's crazy. So so to end off this little showcase, we'll be doing some of this stuff and you'll see what I mean. I'm gonna go ahead and use these four sprays really quickly. We'll have a look and see what they look like. It's sort of started to dry here. It's kind of partially dry, but so on the end here we've got sand brown, which is quite a light shade. As you can see, let me try and get the glare on. As you can see, it's quite a light shade. It's quite subtle, so I would suspect you could probably get away with using this quite heavily to weather things. So especially things like big vehicles around the tracks and around the skirting boards around the outside, and the actual track armor. It'll look quite good. This here is mud brown. This is quite strong. It's quite a dark color. Not 100% convinced of this. It's good, and it's just like I said, just like the actual weathering fluid, the see-through one. A bit too dark. You got to be very careful. You know, the thing with this stuff is, if you use something like this, you'd have to like wipe it off. You know what I mean? Because you'd risk over pigmenting the area. This one, which I think is very cool, is the rust red. So for things like terrain, and you know how you get that sort of like watermarking with rust and stuff, so once you've painted this all up, give it a good blast of rust red on things like terrain. I think it would look really, really cool. So like all your catwalks and your MDF terrain stuff, once you've sealed it with an acrylic paint, give it a blast of this. I think it's really, really cool. And the last one is moss green. Again, it's a very subtle one. So this is something that I'm thinking of for using like under or over sort of outdoor terrain pieces. Just because it looks like a very subtle moss effect, right? So you'd like paint a tree and you'd spray this around the base kind of thing. So again, it's quite subtle, but quite good. So the sprays are, you know, I'd say they're good to have, but they're not like you must have them. You know, so if you like it, get them. If you don't like them, meh. But definitely not like the opaque fluids. I think those are like a must-have for modelers. So anyway, so here we have La Creme De La Resistance, which is the snow spray. Dudes, This stuff, yeah. Well, let me just show you.
It's got a rattler.
President Nixon, eaten alive by a human hamburger. Now we can watch paint dry. Freaking human hamburgers everywhere. They walk. Okay, so here we have just some basic paint on a base. And we're going to give it a blast with the snow effect. Warning, red cap. As you can see, I'm wearing gloves. Just because it's really cold. Like snow. Look at that! It's snow! I should have worn a mask. Check this out, dudes. Look at that. It looks like frickin' snow. I shit you not. I mean, it's freezing cold. I mean, you gotta wait for it to dry. And look how it starts to like crack as well. It's fantastic. I don't know how they designed this stuff, but it's really good. If you want to do snow, seriously get this stuff. I reckon the Opaque range and the snow spray is like. And you can't get the shit anywhere else. Like, I don't know anybody else that makes this stuff. So you can see it's like starting to crack down, and obviously you can manipulate it while it's drying. I'll put quite a thick coat on here, and the thicker the coat you put on it starts to crack. And as you can see on my finger, that's a very thin coat, so it just looks like a light dusting of snow. You know what I mean? So you can really, it's very easy to control, because I found that the other sprays, the weathering sprays, are quite difficult to control. Yeah, that's just me, but. With the snow spray is very easy to control, and I think it's just amazing. Like, I mean, check that out. Do a real close up here. I mean, look at that. It looks like real frickin' snow. Look at my thumb. Not this thumb, that thumb. So yeah, so I'm very impressed. Super duper impressed. I think it's a must-have for hobbyists. So anyway, that has been my review on the Model Mates Opaque range, their range of weathering sprays, and also snow effect spray. Overall, guys, I think it's a very good range. I would highly recommend that you take a look at their products, you select a few products, and you add them to your tools, as they are very, very useful. Alright guys, I hope you've enjoyed it, I hope you found it useful, and take care.